Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is Michelle, and who's here with me?
It's JD.
It's JD. It's always JD.
Sure
hey,
is.
JD.
Pretty
How
much
you
every
doing?
time. I'm doing well. How are you, Michelle?
I'm good, but
Yeah?
sunburned in April.
How are you sunburnt in April?
I went tanning.
So you're not sunburnt.
I'm sunburned.
You're tan burnt.
I'm UV light burned. I made a
You're
mistake.
fake burnt.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely, I feel like
You
I was
are.
cooked in an oven regardless.
Lamp burnt, I think, would be the appropriate way to say it. You were lamp burnt rather than sunburnt.
I am so pale that it would not surprise me if I did get burned just sitting by a lamp.
Oh,
I am a very, very translucent human being.
I know how that
and I'm
goes.
trying to fix that. Yeah.
I'm a pretty pale person myself. So anyway, now that we've talked about our complexions right up front,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
we watch Shudder is what we do. That's the name of the show. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you for doing that. We talk about new releases and sometimes old releases on Shudder, which is like the awesomest, and yes, that is a word, awesomest streaming service for those of us who love horror and horror-adjacent cinema. We're talking about an older movie today. Is that correct, Michelle? Do I know what I'm talking about on my own podcast?
You do. Good job.
Woohoo.
We watched a Shudder exclusive called We Go On. We watch Shudder, We Go On from 2016. It is under 90 minutes. Huzzah!
Yay!
Back when movies were not
It's-
4 hours long.
Look,
it is a pet
here's
peeve.
the thing
You
that I
know
will
it.
say for sure is if your movie is less than 90 minutes, you will guaranteed not get 0 skulls.
That's not true. Scary of 61st.
I was just like, I should have checked out the time on that before I started talking out of my ass. And
probably
Michelle, of
91
course,
minutes.
being the detail-focused, which is the nicest way of saying weirdly obsessive person that she is, definitely knew right away that movie is less than 90 minutes long.
That's because our scale of movies goes from Scary of 61st to Mad God. That is the scale that all movies are judged by.
Yeah,
By the way, if you haven't seen Mad God.
On
go
a
see Mad
scale,
God.
on a scale of Scary of 61st to Mad God, how does your movie rate?
Well, I'm excited to talk about this movie and see how it rates. Are you
Right,
excited, JD?
Oh, I'm so excited, Michelle. So excited. We did the smart thing and we waited until 10 o'clock at night to record the episode again this week. None of this, let's get all this energy in the afternoon bullshit. We got that out of our systems. Back to doing this up in the later part of the evenings. I myself did just watch the movie earlier this evening. Michelle, when did you see it?
I started it last night, but then I started falling asleep, not because of the movie, but just because I am burned out, and now I'm sunburned, so it matches.
Yeah.
The outside matches the inside, and then I finished it this morning.
Michelle and I were talking before we hit the record button about how she's been working 13-hour days just like sitting in Zoom meetings listening to people shout at each other in Korean while she gets paid to just be there. And I want to
love
know
my
how I
job.
get that job, frankly. I would love to get paid to listen to people argue in Korean. That sounds like a pretty all right job. I mean, at least
Yeah.
compared to other jobs, you know? I can
It
definitely
was-
think
it
of a
was a
lot
fun
worse
time.
things to do.
Yeah, great time.
Had you seen this movie at all before, or did you know anything about it before we went back to check it out for this episode?
So I didn't even remember seeing this title ever before until we were going through the April release schedule and realized We Go On would be the next one in the catalog that we haven't seen. We're going in chronological order for those of you who don't know, just revisiting exclusives and originals we have not seen before. But several weeks ago, you told me to watch a movie called Yellow Brick Road, and I randomly happened to watch that earlier this week, went to the cast list and noticed, hey, this guy's in the movie that we happen to be watching on Thursday. So just one of those weird coincidences. So what I knew was, I know we're going to talk about Yellow Brick Road. We already prefaced that a little bit.
Because I
But,
mean, not only
yeah,
do
that's what I
they
knew.
share, not only do they share cast, but written and directed by the same fellas. The same two guys wrote and directed both movies, and that was my curious experience with it, as well as I saw Yellow Brick Road just randomly. I saw it pop up in a on that ad-supported service Tubi. If you're curious, TUBI is where I saw it. I'm sure you can find it other places too. If you can find it on Tubi, it should be a lot of different spots. But watch that. Definitely suggested that you check it out, and then pulled up the Shudder page to watch We Go On, which I also similarly don't remember ever seeing the title for. I think, to be totally honest, because the promotional image, like the image that they put up on the menu that would in theory be like the DVD cover or the poster, frankly not real attention grabbing on this one. It's very vague and very basic and easily overlooked, and I just don't remember ever seeing the title. But once I saw, I pulled up the page, and that's one of the first thing it says is from the people who made Yellow Brick Road, and I was like, oh, what a coinky-dink. And definitely made me excited to check this movie out, and I'm glad that we're here to talk about it. We should probably do some spoiler-free thoughts, huh? That's usually where we start.
Yeah, first we start with the description, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we decided to go
I am
with
going to make you a checklist. I really am.
One of these days. It's look my utter lack of regard for consistent structure is part of what makes me charming, right? That's why people listen to the show, because I'm weird about
they're like, drink every time JD says something out of order or starts talking about a completely different topic.
Anyway, we looked at the descriptions, and this week we decided to go with the IMDb description instead of the Shudder description. Not so much because the Shudder description is super spoilery. It is a little spoilery, but mostly because it's a goddamn novel again, and the one on IMDb is a single sentence, and it's a perfect sentence to tell you everything you need to know going into this movie. Michelle, what is that sentence?
That sentence from the IMDb website is: Miles Grissom offers $30,000 to the first person who can prove to him that we go on after death.
And hey, you get a reference to the title right there.
They did it.
In that description, they sort everything out for you. And yeah, that's the first, basically the opening scene of the movie right there, right? Is we meet this guy Miles, and he has some it's sort of a dream sequence kind of introduction, and then we see him calling the newspaper people to place this ad. So obviously we're not going to spoil anything for you right away here. Michelle, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on We Go On?
I am always so happy when I am pleasantly surprised by a movie that I had very low hopes for. This poster, like you said, doesn't really catch the eye. Not a lot going on. I had never heard of this. I would have never watched it if I hadn't, had it on the schedule for us, that it was the next catalog item. And I am so happy that I did. This is obviously a little indie project, at least not gigantic, big budget, but it's definitely done with a lot of love. It's done by people who know what they're doing. There are some flaws to it. The script has, some inconsistency or some pacing issues, rather. There's a couple weird camera angles, that kind of thing. But I really, really enjoyed this in a way that I did not think that I would. I'm giving it a 4.
All right, so 4 skulls from Michelle about We Go On. And I'm going to try to do this in as non-broken record a way as possible. But yeah, this is a movie, like I said, obviously it's been a Shudder exclusive since 2016, so it's been there since I became a Shudder subscriber, and I've been through their complete list of titles multiple times. So obviously I know intellectually or academically that I have seen the title, but I've never given it a second thought. Nothing about it drew me to it whatsoever. I likewise very likely never would have watched this movie if it weren't for it coming up on the schedule for the show. And I also really enjoyed this. Again, I was very excited when I did go to look at it and found out it was made by the guys who made Yellow Brick Road. But no, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a really unique spin on a supernatural kind of ghost story. This movie, I think it's got a lot of unique elements. There are a couple of scenes in particular that we'll talk about in the spoiler section that I really enjoyed. Again, like you, I don't think it's a perfect movie. It definitely is. The way I was thinking of it as the movie wrapped up is, I agree, this is not a grand slam, but it's a home run. This is a 4-skull movie for me as well.
Nice. 4 skulls from both of us. That comes out to a 4-skull average.
Math is our strong point.
We're good at math.
We're going to start a new podcast called We Do Math. That's all we're going to do. We're just going to do math for however long it takes.
I love algebra. I was that nerd in high school where they gave us the textbook for algebra, and I was so excited that I took it home and I did all the stuff in the back of the workbook, all the examples that they sometimes have you do for homework. And then when we were assigned homework, I just had to copy the answers I had already done.
All right, then.
I'm a nerd.
Michelle Does Math. That'll be the podcast. Not We Do Math. It'll be Michelle Does Math.
Yep.
That's a great little story there, Michelle. You know what
End
else
of the
would be
episode. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us. Get out of here. Oh, guys. So yeah, if you're interested in learning what the big deal is about We Go On without it being completely spoiled for you, you're going to want to pause listening to the podcast until you can go watch it, but please make sure you come back and listen to the rest of the episode. See if you thought the same sorts of things about this movie that we thought. When are they going to want to pause, Michelle?
Now.
All right, did you come back?
I did.
Oh, man, I hope they came back. I mean, I hope they did, but also weirdly, frankly, I don't care if they didn't. Because I'm gonna talk into this microphone and record my thoughts on this movie for posterity just to soothe my own ego. But
yeah,
you know,
I record episodes so I can listen to them. It doesn't matter if other people
I don't
do.
really give a shit if anybody. No, I shouldn't say that. I absolutely
nice
care
when people
about
like it.
people
We care
listening
too
to the
much.
show. We appreciate your support and your attention. Anyway, We Go On. Did you go back and watch it? What did you guys think? Do you think it's a 4-skull movie as well? Michelle, so again, like you, I knew nothing about this. I'm not even really sure how to start talking about it.
How about I tell the story of what happened in a brief summary?
Okay, fine.
Would that be
go
a
ahead.
good way? Okay.
Yeah, that's usually what we do here, I suppose. Fine, go ahead.
I've just got like a built-in checklist. So Miles is a guy who is terrified of everything, terrified of driving, terrified of going outside. He has a mom who's very sweet and very overprotective, and his dad died a long time ago when he was a child. And he really wants to answer the big question that we all have, which is what happens when you die? So he puts out an ad and says that he will pay $30,000 to the person who can prove without any shadow of a doubt that there is something after death and what that is. And he narrows it down to 3 possibilities. The first one is a guy who says he's going to scare him a lot, and that will give him some sort of awakening. The second person is a lady who you can't tell if she's crazy or she really does see ghosts. She's also one of my favorite parts of the movie. I really liked all of the stuff with her. The third guy we never even meet because we think that he was just going to pay somebody to do special effects. But then
Okay,
Miles,
I gotta pause you right there, Michelle.
Yeah.
Before you finish the summary.
Yeah.
Did you catch what that guy was holding?
No.
Emmett From, the entrepreneur, he was like, I went to this mountain in Tibet and found this box.
Oh, was it the cube from Hellraiser or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Lament configuration.
It looked like it,
Yep.
but I wasn't positive.
Yeah,
that
it was a
was
Lamarchon box, and I was like,
okay.
And then I had to go run it back and hear what the guy's name was. I actually paused for a minute to look and see if maybe even the character, his name is Emmett From. But that's not a reference itself. No, he's holding a Lamarchon box, and I thought that was just a cool moment. Referencing like he's like, oh, you want to know what happens after you die, man? You got to open up this box and find out. That was just a real awesome little detail that I really appreciated.
Yeah, I thought it might be, but the colors seemed off. So then I thought maybe I'm just making a connection that's not there. So if it's not, it definitely looks like one, and we both think it does. But yeah, Miles, he gets a phone call, and he says, this one I kind of believe in. His mom's like, why? And he's like, because I didn't put my phone number into any of the papers. So somebody called him, and he hadn't given his number out. And so he goes to meet this guy, and the guy's very weird. And he says that he wants to let Miles in on the thing and let him be in on the crowd. And he just has to go into this house and he'll find something. And he does find something. He finds that guy's dead body. That guy was a ghost and has now shown him his own corpse. And now he is haunting Miles. And this is when the movie finally throws some scary stuff at us, because this is a actually very creepy ghost. And there are some fun things that happen when Miles closes his eyes, because now he is just permanently haunted. And in order to get rid of the ghost, he has to kill the ghost's ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend is the one who killed that guy, and now he's a ghost. There's all that going back on and forth and all shenanigans. And then eventually we'll just cut to the chase. Miles dies, and now he's not haunted anymore, but he is finally driving.
He quote unquote dies. Like he goes into cardiac arrest,
yes,
and then
he dies, but not permanently. He like temporarily.
He wasn't
dies.
really dead.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I should clarify. He dies, but not really.
Right.
So he comes back, and he's not accompanied by a ghost, and now he's not scared anymore, and he can drive a car, and it's a huge win. But at the beginning of the film, the dream that woke him up, there was a dream sequence at the very beginning about him losing control of his car and crashing, and he startles himself awake, and that is what happens at the very end of the film. So he had been predicting his death all along.
And there's that moment right there at the end where not only do we realize as the audience that this is mirroring that catastrophic dream nightmare that he'd been having, he realizes it as well. And just kind of accepts it, and I feel like almost in a way leans into it. And yeah, so it's that's sort of the plot in a nutshell. I mentioned that there were a couple of scenes specifically in this movie that are like number one things for me that I thought were just perfectly executed, just really well done. And the very first one was the sequence where Miles meets is his name Nelson? Was that his name?
The ghost guy? 'Cause that's Nelson.
Yeah,
that's
when
Nelson.
Miles first meets Nelson, that whole bit leading up to him, the moment he finds the corpse and we all realize together that he's been following and talking to a ghost this whole time, I fucking love that whole sequence. I thought it was just perfectly done. Just really excellent performances from both of the actors, Jay Dunn and Clark Freeman. I loved that whole scene. That scene in itself kind of elevated this whole movie for me.
Oh, you want me to respond?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought you had more to say, but no, I agree with you. The first half of this movie is something that we have kind of seen before, of trying to figure out if there's life after death, but
Sure.
I don't think I've really seen it executed in this way, and that was part of the charm for me, where I was excited when I knew that there were three people after seeing the first one, and knowing that each of the three people were going to give him a completely different experience. One was trying to scare him, the second one was a medium, and the third one was going to show him the lemon cube. Whatever it's called, the cube, B cube,
Lemon configuration.
Lamont configuration. Thank you. But
also known as the Lamar Sean box.
Okay, Lamar Sean box. That sounds like a like a basketball player, LaMarshawn Bucks.
Oh.
I would absolutely, I would root for that guy. But yeah, so I was excited after seeing the first one and knowing like, oh, you know, I don't know. Like, I can't put it into words. I was drawn in. And the second half kind of becomes more of the ghost story that we're used to. And I think if it had just been that, the whole film, I wouldn't have liked it as much, even though it's fine. It's just not a brand new thing. The first half was just very entertaining and refreshing and new. And I like that.
Yeah. The movie definitely has... It has like a weird hybrid structure, right? Because it very much plays in a traditional sort of 3-act kind of structure. But it also, in its own way, like you mentioned, plays in 2 different halves. You have the first half of the movie where we're establishing the idea. He's putting this ad out. We meet his mom who thinks he's a crazy person, but in the most loving, motherly way possible. She's very supportive of him as a crazy person. So there's that whole section where they're doing the investigating of the reports. They do the bits with the 3 people. I thought that sequence with John Glover as Dr. Ellison. John Glover is a fantastic character actor. He's one of those guys where you'll see him and you'll be like, oh, I know that guy. He was in like 8 million things I've seen. I loved how that sequence played out. I thought there was like some real fun sort of spooky shit going on there, especially with the sound, which definitely becomes a hallmark of this movie and also, curiously, a hallmark of their previous film, Yellow Brick Road. They do a lot of real interesting things with the scary elements and horrific elements that are possible in their sound design. And so there was all sorts of fun stuff there. This movie also, though, has, especially in that first half, like a coy sense of humor. Like I was right on board. I was like, oh my God, we just jumped right in here and this doctor like got this guy to see a ghost just by making him eat some MSG and playing some crazy noises over headphones. What are you fucking... And then Annette O'Toole as the mother, which, speaking of, by the way, somebody I never would have expected to be in this movie had you told me about it and I knew anything, but she was fantastic. But she just comes around the corner and she's got this kid all done up in makeup and it turns out the thing is a scam. That whole moment where they drive up to the entrepreneur's house and he gets out and talks to the guy that he just happens to randomly recognize, and they deduce that this guy is full of shit and he's setting up real life special effects for him. Just little moments like that I just thought were not laugh out loud funny, but just super clever, and kept you involved in that first half of the movie. And then, of course, we come back to that voicemail that they had looked at, and he mentions right off the bat, like you had said, what's weird about it is I didn't put my phone number in any of the ads. And I don't know about you, but that also for me is one of the small things that I think I would have done differently, because there is no way in hell I would not immediately be following up that lead. Like the moment you say, I didn't put my phone number in any of the ads, I'm not putting that one on the back burner. I may look at other things still, but that one is not going in the maybe pile at all.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. But if he had a story with that, we would have got a different film, and it probably wouldn't have done as well.
Right.
So I'm glad that he made the bad decision to put it on the back burner.
I talked a bit there about the first sequence with Dr. Ellison and when they go to the school, and there's the little ghost kid. I thought that was really well done. I heard you mention earlier that you were especially fond of Josephina, the medium, in this. Tell us a bit about, because that would have been the next part of that sort of first half of the movie. What was so enjoyable about that for you?
There was just, how do I put it? I just really liked her portrayal of that character. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was really extreme, where she is clearly terrified of what is going on, but you truly don't know. Is she seeing a lot of spirits that are haunting her in particular, which seems just incredible and not possible, or is she a crazy person who is, seeing things in general? It's very clear that she is not putting on an act. Whatever she's seeing, she completely believes it. And I think that's why it works for me so well, because there's not a single flaw in the way that she is doing what she's doing. I just really, really like that performance overall.
Yeah, I agree. There is a perfect a perfectly balanced tone in her performance, because what she's doing in somebody else's hands could have so easily been too much, right? You could have poured yourself into this so far and taken it way to the nth degree, and then become kind of almost a parody of itself and kind of not so enjoyable. But by the same token, it can't be too restrained either. And I agree with you. I think she hit this perfect tone where even for the characters in the scene, like, okay, I'm not saying she's actually talking to the ghosts of dead people, but this is also not a complete just acting job. Like this, she is having an experience one way or the other, and she nailed it. Giovanna Zacharias is the actress. And I agree. I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was great every time she came up in the film. Just a really solid performance, and one of the, again, like, this idea of like, the reason she's believable as a medium is because it's not, like, she doesn't look at it as a superpower, right? She's not out here trying to flaunt it around to, like, this is a burden for her. Mm-hmm. This is something that makes her life sometimes nearly impossible all the time. And I did really enjoy that characterization. I liked that quite a bit. That was a fantastic. And then you get into that second half of the movie where we do start digging into the deep story. I loved the parallel between Miles just knowing, just having that gut instinct before they go to Nelson's funeral that he needs to take the bullets out of his mom's gun that he found in the and she, because she just straight up told him, she's like, if it was me, I would kill her, and I don't care. Like, you can judge me all you want. If it was me, I would kill her because you're my son and I'm your mother, and that's what mothers would do. And I don't know that I necessarily personally agree with that, but I'm also not a mother, and I definitely understand the perspective. But the parallel between that and then Alice, just out of nowhere in that second scene, pulls a gun out of her purse and shoots Miles and tells him the exact same reason his mother said she would do it. I mean, it's not subtle by any means, but I thought it was really effective. I really appreciated that quite a bit. And it also just came out of nowhere. I did not see her shooting him at all. I thought that was really effectively well done.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that scene at the funeral where Annette O'Toole goes to kill the woman, and just that heartbreak where she realizes what has happened and she keeps trying anyway, and her son knew better. One other thing that I really liked in the second half is when he's initially haunted, and the way that when he's closing his eyes, he's seeing things, he's freaking out all the time. That was all so well edited. It's so fast that you can't even catch the things that are happening, so you have to be very focused and watching it very, very closely. And they only do it for a little bit of time, and then some spots later on, so it's not worn out. It's not this constant bombardment in the way that it is for him. It does a good job of establishing that this is what he's experiencing and then reminding you of that each time it becomes important to be like, oh yeah, this is what he's feeling. I thought that was just so interesting.
I also was very brought in by the idea that, and they played this sort of subtly, but there are those moments where for just a flash of a moment, Charlotte, the mother, she thinks she saw Nelson's ghost, right? And then at the funeral, there's that flash, that moment where Alice thinks she saw Nelson's ghost. And what I like about that is, here's the thing, it very slyly plays back on what Dr. Ellison was actually trying to do. Like, his theory was, if we can get you legitimately fucking terrified, like pure scared, like when you were a child about things you legitimately had no understanding of, it can open your door to that sort of thing. And there's that moment at the end of that scene where he says, I was trying to make it work for, because it worked for me. And I just, there's a story there that's just, it's just background. You're not ever going to get it. But I loved how they alluded to that idea that the sham scientist at the beginning might not have been as much of a sham as we thought. His little story there at the end of everything might have been a little bit more true than maybe we gave him credit for. I thought that was really clever and really well done with the writing on this.
Yeah, that is really clever. I didn't even realize that they did it, but now you explaining, that makes 100% sense. The first part feels like it's just kind of to get you to the point of the middle part, but then we do circle back on Josephina. It would make sense that we would circle back to the first guy, and I didn't even make that connection, but I'm glad that it's not spelled out like that.
Right, and there is also a little bit of an element of that in the first encounter with Josephina, where she says that having a skeptic present is going to make this difficult, right? Because you have to be open to the possibility in the first place. And so, the mother, again, she doesn't start seeing it until she starts to believe her son. You know, she's like, okay, something happened here, and then once she starts to believe it a little bit more, that's when the fear builds. And that, because fear arises from belief, right? You can't be afraid of something that you don't believe in, right? Like, ghosts don't scare me as a general rule because I don't believe ghosts are real. That's why some of my favorite movies are slasher movies, right? Because that's that's real, terrifying shit. But
I 100% believe in ghosts. I 100% believe in ghosts, and we'll fight about it.
No, that's fine. But no, I thought that was very clever how they turned around and built back on those initial ideas throughout there with that. I was really curious how they were gonna get out of that lament configuration thing, and I thought that I still can't get over that when he pulls up and is like, oh no, we're doing live specialists. This rich guy's paying me a shit ton of money to put some scary shit in his house. Oh God, that was a great scene. But no, I also mentioned that, again, this movie does a lot with its sound design, which is something we also talked about last week, I believe, with The Unheard. And it's something that is central also. I just noticed the connection between We Go On and Yellow Brick Road, because there's a heavy element of sound causing pain and distress. And I like how they communicate here that one of the ways these ghosts are tormenting Miles or tormenting Josephina is they scream a lot, like right in their faces. And I don't know about you, but yeah, if I was walking around all day, every day with angry ghosts screaming at me that nobody else could see, I would probably be kind of a wreck too. So I like that element of sound as torment. These horror movies are so often very visual for very good reason. But I thought they did some real interesting things in the way they added just those high volume shrieks along with the flashes of imagery when he was, blinking and having those initial visions after he was tethered to Nelson, like you mentioned. I just thought that was really, really, really well done here, as it was in Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah, there are a lot of jump scares that actually worked on me in this one, and I'm usually not too much of a jump scare person. I am a jumpy person in real life. If you come into my room, I don't notice you, and you say something to me, I will scream bloody murder. It used to happen when I worked in an office. My boss would have to knock or something because I yell so many times.
Yeah, I'm very easily startled.
Yeah, in real life, absolutely. Watching a movie, no, you always see it coming if you see as many movies as I do. But there were some, especially the one guy at the funeral. If I'm remembering, I think, like
that just came out of
conversation,
nowhere,
just wow, like oh my god, I jumped so hard, and then I laughed because I was like, oh, you fuckers got me.
That's so great. It's like, how many people do you see? She's like, 4, the priest and 3 more. 3 more, and the dude just stands up and
yeah. Oh my god, it got me. I did not see it coming. Yep.
And it's not even Nelson or anything. It's just another random angry ghost in the graveyard. And he's just gone. I loved that little moment. That was, and I appreciate that there was that element again of a little bit of levity along the way, because this also is not overly so, but it is a very sort of personal movie about families and secrets and lies and a lot of things along that line. But it never. It's a movie that definitely wants you to think about things and definitely rises to a more serious and involved dramatic level than say a more exploitation minded horror movie, which is a beautiful art form. Don't think I'm slighting it in any way. But it also it doesn't want to be like all the way on that like super like deep dramatic, almost like morose level. Do you understand what I'm trying to say there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, funny
really
but sad, aka me.
overall.
My life is funny and sad. I get it. I am this movie. Since we're getting a little long here, I do want to talk a little bit about Yellow Brick Road, but I don't want to spoil it for people. Are we really
going long, Michelle, or are we just going to new average?
Oh God, I don't want to think of this as our new average. It's going to be we're going to be the 90 minutes of movies, but for podcasts, where they're like, well, if they had kept it to 20 minutes. But at this point, we banter too much. We got to stop being friends and go back to how we were at the very beginning of this, where I was too scared to say anything. So you just monologue for 15 minutes and then we wrap up the episode.
No, I agree. I think just based on the fortunate coincidence of us stumbling into Yellow Brick Road right around the same time as we saw We Go On, and because we talked about We Go On a lot here, I don't have a problem talking about Yellow Brick Road for a while. Just a big quick note for you, and I'm going to have to mark the time here to let people know. There might be some spoilers here coming up about a movie called Yellow Brick Road. We'll try extra hard to keep those spoilers minimal, but we're kind of just doing this shooting from the hip. So if we happen to say something, hey, you were warned. In fact, I did just rewatch Yellow Brick Road again today after I watched We Go On, because I enjoyed We Go On enough that I wanted to see Yellow Brick Road again. Tell us a little bit about your experience with that movie, Michelle, because I remember you sending me a message saying that you had finally gotten to check it out and that you personally thought the movie was significantly better than maybe what some of its IMDb like aggregate user scores and things might suggest.
Yeah. First off, Yellow Brick Road is one word. So if you go searching for it, is Yellow Brick Road,
no
one
spaces.
word. Yep. Very odd, but whatever. It's unique. Do your thing. Yellow Brick Road is about 500 people who go missing from a town. They were all obsessed with going to the theater and watching Wizard of Oz. And then they just walked a road and were never seen again. 300 of them turned up dead. 200 of them were never found. And nobody knows why they went for that walk down the road. And the road's location was classified, but somebody got a hand on the coordinates, and they're going to go walk that road. And I think for me, I just really like when things get weird and it's not fully explained. I'm also a huge fan of anything that references Wizard of Oz. I think Wizard of Oz, like the movie itself is a classic.
Sure.
It's not my favorite movie, but I think that when horror movies take elements from that, like what we saw in it's not X, what's the Pearl? Like what we saw in Pearl, where it just takes some of that imagery, or there's a Todrick Hall. I don't think movie. I listen to the soundtrack a lot. I can't remember the original format, but that is all about his time, like coming up in Hollywood and becoming a big celebrity, and it references Wizard of Oz. And I just think there's so many elements that you can take from that movie that are eerie as of all by themselves, or are really inspirational for completely different mediums. So I'm just a huge fan of things that reference back to Wizard of Oz. I think they're always very interesting, and they give you, it's a story that most people, or not all people, weird theater kids know really, really well. And so you can pick up those details, and it's like fun Easter eggs.
Sure. No, and I also really enjoyed Yellow Brick Road. Now, we've talked plenty of times in the past about how, in general, I like there to be at least a little bit of discernible narrative in my movies, and the more shit just happens and we don't necessarily know why, I'm not typically on board with that. But this movie points out a very specific exception to that rule, where one of the ways I can really get involved in a story like this is if it's like its central conceit is this entire movie is just a complete descent into madness for these people, right? They walk down this path into this weird place in the world, and we never know why they're going crazy. We don't know what's up about this place. They don't tell us a fucking thing about why it started happening, what happened to those first people, why it's happening to them again. They don't tell us shit, and I couldn't care less, because the story here, because there's still narrative, right? The story here is never about what happened or what caused it. The story is about we learn what happened to that first group of people by watching it happen to this second group of people, and the way it just slowly ratchets and then just drops fucking bombs on you out of nowhere when the dude attacks his sister with the rock.
Don't spoil too much.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, it just drops bombs, but again, like I mentioned earlier, also does so much with sound. Also, side note, by the way, in one of the most intense sound heavy and aggressive sound assault sections of the movie, the cast is also required to do some of the best cheesy stumbling around like they're in an earthquake acting this side of an original Star Trek episode. Like, when the Enterprise would get blasted and they'd have to like, oh, I've been tossed to the side, and it's just this real over-the-top overacting. These guys have to do a decent amount of that here too, and it's very enjoyable. But no, I just it's a movie that as a movie that's about descending into just insanity in a number of different ways. I thought it was really effective. Again, from a storytelling perspective, I love how it takes moments from earlier in the film, things that were said by people that seemed like just kind of offhanded comments that come back around to have way more significance. There are some genuinely horrifying moments in that film, as there were in We Go On. I'm just really impressed with both of these movies, which also makes me a little depressed, because I immediately learned, of course, also that these are the only two films that Jesse Holland and Andy Mitten have made together. They did some short work, but these are the only two features they did together. They've both since done other things as solo projects, but man, with as good as these two films were, I can't imagine why they would ever want to split that team up.
Yeah. I can only speculate. I'm going to assume that one of them was visiting the other person's house. And while they were there, oh my God, sorry. Okay, I'll finish my thought. But while he was there, he went to the fridge and he ate the guy's leftovers and he didn't get permission. So he got kicked out. But more importantly, The Harbinger is one that I happened to just watch, and that was made by Andy Mitten, and I fucking love The Harbinger.
Oh my God. Well, we may be onto somebody here that we want to take a look at. I guess I may have to go take a look at that film. Oh, and I just pulled up The Harbinger.
Excited.
I just pulled up The Harbinger here, and there's a picture on this guy, or not The Harbinger, but Andy Mitten on IMDb, and there's a picture of one of the guys who was in Yellow Brick Road, who is also in The Harbinger, and We Go On, and looks like he's been in all. Anyway, yeah, I'll have to check out The Harbinger then, and I will also have to check out The Witch in the Window, which are the two films that Andy Mitten has done. And then Jesse Holland, I believe, directed a movie, something about a scarecrow. No, I was just really impressed by both of these movies. I thought it was just a fun coincidence that we ended up seeing both of them just sort of parallel to each other without any intent in any way. And I, like I said, Yellow Brick Road is at least available on Tubi with ad support. I imagine you might be able to find it elsewhere for a few bucks where you don't have to watch the ads with it. We Go On, obviously a Shudder exclusive. I think you should check out both of these movies if you haven't seen them. These really fantastic bits of work.
The Harbinger is also available on Tubi, and I happened to watch it last week. So apparently I am being haunted by Andy Mitten, and I am totally okay with it. I will give a disclaimer. The Harbinger has some stupid shit in it. There are some parts where it loses me. But the overall concept and story, he is very good at doing things I have not seen before, and The Harbinger is one of those. So I highly recommend. If you like one of these movies that we have mentioned, you're pretty much gonna like the other ones, because
for sure.
Yeah, I think I think I'm in love with Andy Mitten. Is he married?
Lord.
Somebody
well,
Google.
Don't tell him you're married, Michelle.
Well, I'll move to Utah. That's the one where polygamy's still legal, right?
Right.
I'll start a petition. So
or you
I
could
can
just be
a husbands.
You could just be a forward-thinking woman of tomorrow and just say, well, I mean, I can be married to one man and still love another man. It doesn't mean anything about A and B don't have anything to do with each other.
But I much prefer the husband version of Sister Wives, where these are my brother hubbies.
Oh, fair enough. These are my brother hubbies.
They can all clean different parts of my house.
Nope, that's okay. I'm glad you said different parts of your house. I was real concerned about where that was going.
No, I'm just thinking chores would be easier if I had multiple brother hubbies around the house. I would not pull my own weight because I would be, the alpha dog in the house. They would be the ones who just want to please me, and I love that. So
right
Andy
here.
Mitten, if you want to become part of my harem, there's a spot open for you.
This is the premium content that people really keep coming to the show for, Michelle. This sort of stuff right here.
Applications are now open.
Right. Absolutely.
So
yeah, guys, definitely check out We Go On Shudder. Check out Yellow Brick Road. Check out The Harbinger. The Witch in the Window, I believe, is on Shudder. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. I know I've seen that movie.
On AMC, so usually that means Shudder on IMDb.
Yeah, I know I've seen that name before, but again, I just kind of... Yep, it's a Shudder original, The Witch in the Window. That means we'll be getting to it eventually on this show.
I thought it was on our list, but I didn't go to the Excel sheet. So
well, now I have to fight that battle of do I want to just go ahead and watch it and then come back to it? Because here's the thing. I just happened to pull up The Witch in the Window on the Shudder website, and I'm just scanning through some of the user reviews, and this one jumped out at me, and here's what it says. It says, shit got real at the 57-minute mark. And now I'm like, okay, well... Maybe I
have some really good news for you, JD.
What's that?
We can do whatever the fuck we want. If we
we can.
to watch The Witch in the Window, our April schedule is out, and I refuse to move the Texas Chainsaw Massacre
I agree.
to May. But for May, we will absolutely watch The Witch in the Window.
If
you can hold off for a month.
Here's another big reason why we need to get The Witch in the Window on our schedule. Ask me what the running time is.
Is it under 90 minutes?
It's 77 minutes, Michelle.
Oh, so
70.
nice.
I'm going to hang up and go watch that movie after we're done tonight.
I know
Are you kidding?
Will. I absolutely
minutes?
know you are.
77 minutes. I've spent... never mind. I was going to make a toilet joke there, and nobody wants that. It's totally unnecessary. Sometimes I forget my audience. Anyway, guys. Oh, yeah. So Michelle, by the way, mentioned that we released our schedule, and if you've seen it, you'll notice the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on there. We decided that we're going to sort of loosen the restraints here a little bit. We've been trying to focus, even in our archive titles, on older original and exclusives from Shudder. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, legendary horror film, that is also available on Shudder. And it's something we've never done yet here, is to go back and really take a deep dive into a classic horror film that, I mean, I've talked about plenty, but I think I can say with confidence that Michelle and I both very much love. And just really sort of spend some time with that. Because, again, it is available on Shudder, not just as the movie itself. You can also watch it as an episode of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy the Mail Girl. So you get it with the commentary or without. And I'm so glad you just took a moment to say, hey, JD, is there any reason we can't do this? Because I never thought to do it, but goddamn, I'm excited to talk about Texas Chainsaw in a couple of weeks.
8 years ago, I think it was Aaron and John bought the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie poster from you and gave it to me for Christmas.
I was
or
actually going to mention that. They didn't buy it from me. You and I both bought one at the same time from Nathan Fulsebach. He was selling a bunch of movie posters, and he had two different Texas Chainsaw posters. He had the one that you have and the one that I have. See, the one Michelle has is the classic sketch, like art drawing of Leatherface, American poster. I believe it's the one that says, "Who will survive and what will be left of them?"
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and the one that I have is the London theatrical premiere one sheet where it has the photo, like the actual frame still of Leatherface from towards the end of the movie, and it says, "Can you survive?" And it happened. We we love this movie, and I am very excited to talk about it and my experience with it over the years. This is a movie that I can remember with intense clarity, the exact details on when I saw it for the first time.
Me too. We'll have to save it for the episode.
Yeah.
Save that part for the episode.
Yeah, for sure.
I can tell you so much.
This movie had an impact on me 20-some years ago and continues to have an impact on me. I'm looking forward to talking about that. What other fun stuff do we have coming up, Michelle?
Well, I just have to add that they spelled chainsaw as 2 words instead of 1, and I still give it 5 skulls. That's how much I like that movie.
Yeah, but that's something I want to point out, by the way, is it is 2 words. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that ridiculous remake, put it together as a compound word.
The correct way.
4 words. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. TCSM. Anyway.
Hate it. Anyway, the next week, actually, it looks like Shudder will be releasing both of their movies on Fridays this month. Woo-hoo. So, cancel all your big weekend plans. We're nerds.
Don't be ridiculous. What big weekend plans do we have?
No, I knew it. So Kids vs. Aliens next Friday, then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I'll probably watch twice before we actually record.
And then hopefully From Black on the 28th, except some places say that's also coming out on the 14th. In fact, if you go look at IMDb release dates for From Black, it says release date, April 14th, United States, Internet. April 28th, United States, Internet. And we can't figure out when it's... So there's a slight possibility we may end up having to do a double feature next week, but we don't know yet.
But that does mean we get to watch The Witch in the Window on the 28th. It
does.
Instead.
Well, I get to watch The Witch in the Window as soon as we're done here. I told you, 77 minutes.
But you cannot talk to me about it for a month.
Fair enough.
You're going to have to tell your dog or something all your thoughts on it, because I can't hear it until we record. That's our thing.
You notice that the dog stopped barking once I picked him up and set him on the desk here.
Yeah.
Now he's just snoring.
Dogs are so great.
Ugh.
Anyway, check us out on all the social medias. We are at We Watch Shudder. If you follow us on Twitter, you're going to see JD posting a lot of stuff about wrestlers, and then I will pop it in there every once in a while with a silly quip, and then I'll go back to the shadows.
I say a lot of stuff about horror movies too,
I know.
Michelle.
I'm just saying.
I do talk about pro wrestling
things.
a lot.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Those are the distinct things. If it's wrestlers, it's you.
Right.
If it's like bring back 3D movies.
Michelle does a really good job of remembering to mark her tweets with an M so you know they came from her. But I try to remember to do a JD, but also I'm such a pompous ass that I'm just like, this is my Twitter, even though it says We Watch Shudder anyway.
I don't mind.
In most cases, if it's not marked, 100% if it's a tweet about pro wrestling, it was me. So if you're ever curious, assume it was me. That's all I'll say about the Twitter.
But Facebook and Instagram are 100% of the time me. So we each have our own platforms.
That's correct. Do we have any videos on TikTok yet, Michelle?
No. At this point, I think it's kind of better to never release videos on TikTok. And I'm thinking what I'll do instead is start releasing our videos on all the other platforms.
That would be funny.
And then I know it would be really funny. People are following us on TikTok, and I'm like, what are you doing? We're never going to post on this. We only did it because Eric Cannon told us we needed TikTok, and Eric Cannon is God. He's going to be one of my, brother hubbies.
Eric Cannon is God?
Yeah, I love Eric Cannon.
Okay, Eric Cannon's
I like his
man.
pants. His pants are great. Yeah,
he does have good pants. He has good. He also used to have a bitchin' mohawk.
Oh man, he's so cool.
Yeah, he is.
He can be the rock star fulfillment of my brother hubby harem that I need. These can also, for the record, so that I don't make Eric uncomfortable, it can be a platonic brother hubby thing. You're just legally bound to me. That's the important part that I need to make sure is not missed. I do need you legally not allowed to escape. So.
I think the best part about this situation these days, here's what I love about where our podcast is you have finally reached a point where I can just shut up and let you go and just be like, oh, Michelle, keep digging that hole. Just keep digging that hole. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
This is one I am not going to tell the husband to listen to, because he'll be like,
going.
I don't want to share my toys.
He'll hear it. He's a loyal listener.
I know.
He's a good man.
I know.
Shout out
He's
John Roller.
Man.
Anyway,
Shout
guys,
out
that's we're just babbling at this point because it's later in the night and we're having a good time. Check out We Go On. Check out Yellow Brick Road. Check out Shudder. Get a Shudder subscription. If you don't have one, what the fuck is wrong with you? Change your life. Get a Shudder subscription. They don't even pay us to say that. You know what else we don't get paid to say? Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.